Hi, everyone.
Hi, sir.
Hi, sir.
Hi, sir.
Okay,
Hi,
yeah,
sir.
sorry, there
Hi, sir.
was a customer call. That's why I was not
Hi,
able
sir.
to join. Okay, fair enough. Any questions from any of you guys? Hey, Rishita. Hi, Sridhar.
Hi, Riaz.
Hey, any technical question, guys, on what you are trying, what you are working?
Areas I have one question.
Yes.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please.
I am working on Flora. If the user get deactivated, the scenario is if the user get deactivated means that user will not visible in the technician record. If the user get activated means that user will visible in the technician record. But I'm getting the TML error. Is there any other way to counter that?
You are getting mixed DML error.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have to use the. Generally, we use Apex and at future method so that it becomes a asynchronous request.
Okay.
Or what you can do, you have to have in the before trigger, you have to update the technician record. You should not do it after. You do it before.
Okay.
Here you say record is record is updated, right? That should be before a record update. Okay. Can do that. So that way your mixed DML won't come. Mixed DML is coming because you after updating user record, if you try to update any other custom objects, it will throw an error.
Yeah, okay. We have to use before trigger, right?
Yes, use before trigger.
Okay, yes, thank you.
That will avoid the mixed DML.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions? Is the custom link worked, Sridhar or Imran? Yesterday you guys were having a challenge. Value not getting passed.
Yeah, I resolved that, yes.
Good. What was the issue? Why it was not working?
Actually, that user ID, I can't able to see. That's why. If the user ID, if I can get that user ID, I can able to map that user detail to that technician ID. Once again, let me show you.
No. Okay.
So is my screen visible?
Yep.
Yeah, here. If I created this Jan Christian, actually this Jan Christian account was created in that user ID.
Yeah.
I mean standard object, user object.
Okay. Yeah. Imran, I was asking about the custom link. Okay. There was a custom button created, right, yesterday to
That was Satyan's task, bro.
Satyam. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, hi, yes.
Is
It
that
is
issue
not
resolved,
resolved.
Satyam?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So no one from the team contacted you to resolve?
Uh, means yesterday some guy contacted me,
Who?
uh, Sulaiman.
Sulaiman. Okay.
Yeah, and he
Still,
told,
the issue is not resolved.
yes.
Okay. We'll see
Yeah, okay.
why it is happening. Okay, good. So any questions on governor limits? I will again we'll cover the best practices, few more items today. Governor limits, any questions? Some questions.
No, Ria.
Okay, that's good. Talk about the helper methods and yeah, large data sets. Okay, so before that, I want to make sure, like, you guys understand what is helper methods are for. Okay. Uh, I know, like, not many of you guys have written Apex classes, but have anyone have written a trigger, Apex trigger? No one written Apex trigger?
I written Apex trigger.
Okay, is it Rian?
Yes.
Hi, Rian. Okay. Okay. Yes. Can you share your screen and just show the Apex trigger what you have written? Just want to talk about that.
Okay.
You have written it for which project?
For master project.
Sir. Okay. Great.
This is
Do we
a
have?
after trigger. After
That's fine.
insert.
Doesn't matter. As long as we have a trigger, that is all good. Okay. And have you written any Apex class? Can you open one Apex class as well?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Do we have Durai in the call? Anyone else?
No, sir.
Durai is not here. Okay, that's fine. So if you guys notice, like Apex trigger, Apex classes, both are Apex code only. Okay. The one stark difference that you see is in the classes, we declare with sharing or without sharing, we declare like, what is the access specifier, like public, right? If you see in the trigger, there is no such thing called with sharing, without sharing, or there is no, if you go to the trigger, yeah, there is no access modifier. Yeah. So this is a very big difference. Even though they execute the Apex code, the access modifiers, the sharing are applicable for your Apex classes, not for your trigger. Your triggers execute in system mode. Okay, and your Apex classes execute in user mode. This is a very big difference. Okay, you guys need to understand this. So in triggers, it is running under system mode. So it is strongly advised not to put any business logic in the trigger. Trigger is only for doing data handling. Okay. Business logic, no. All your business logic must be kept in an Apex class. Okay, so writing such Apex classes to be invoked in a trigger, we call it as helper class, service class, utility class, whatever name you want to give, you can give. Okay. So the idea is the business logics, right? It has to execute on the user context. I'll give one simple example. Now today there is a business. There are two units. Okay. You guys know about role hierarchy, sharing setting, and everything. Okay. Let's say you do created a custom object. You made the access org by default as public. What that means is anyone in the organization will have access to the records, right? In that case, it is okay if you put the logic in trigger or put the logic in class. There is no difference because everyone has access. If the org by default sharing setting is private, which means only the owner of the record have access to it, that being a very big difference, right? In the trigger, it will, since it runs in a system mode, it accesses all the data, all the records. Okay. If I query select ID name from an object, which is a private object, then it retrieves all the data. We don't want to do that at all. Because in the sharing setting, you say it is private, trigger, it violates. So far, does it make sense? Why you should not put a business logic in trigger? If you guys don't understand, please feel free to ask question.
Could you please once again?
Okay. Okay. At least you guys see the difference, right? The trigger and the Apex class. You have access modifier, you have sharing with sharing without sharing. If that difference is clear, I will take over the screen sharing. I will explain this in detail.
Yes, sir. The difference is okay.
Okay, good. I'll do my screen sharing. Okay. Open to CT. I have not done. Yeah, that's a trigger. Perfect. I have this employee trigger, after trigger, employee, before trigger. Okay. Okay, let me check any Apex class. We have employee controller. These are all controller classes, which we don't want. We want a service class or helper class, which would be invoked from trigger. Trigger are email manager. Okay, we are calling email manager. I'll just open this class. Okay, here there are no sharing has been mentioned. Okay, this is again utility class. No sharing is needed. As you can notice here, now pharmacy employees, if I do a query, so we have pharmacy employees, pharmacy employee. Let's assume the access defined for it is private. Okay, so only the owner can access the record. Is that part clear?
Yes, sir.
Can access the record. Okay, if I do a query here, select ID, comma name from pharmacy employees in the trigger. Okay, this will return all records. Not only the records that I have access, but it will return all records because in the trigger, it is running in the system mode. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, that's clear.
Now, in order to avoid this, we generally go for an Apex class, control PSDX, create Apex class. We'll call it as employee helper or employee service. Okay. Here we say with the sharing. So the sharing context is applied. Okay. If I do the same query in the helper class, it will not return, it's running under the user mode. It will return only records accessible to the user. Okay. So user mode with sharing. And there is one more option, user mode without sharing. If I put without sharing, then the sharing logic is not applied. It will return the records all. So if I use without sharing means the sharing logic is not applied. It will return, it will almost run in the system context mode. So with sharing enforces this record access privileges and everything. Okay. So this is a very big difference, right? Here, no matter what, when I query, I get all the records because I run in the system mode. Here, with sharing, returns only the records that I can access. So that's why it is highly advisable to put the business logic in Apex classes, not in the trigger. Is that point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Rishita, Imran?
Yes, Riyas.
Yes. Amina?
Yes.
Is that part clear? We generally make mistakes around this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So that's why the best practice, one of the best practices to make sure you bulkify your helper methods as well, because the first best practice we saw is bulkify your triggers, right? Bulkify your code. Similarly, making sure your helper methods, all the Apex classes also bulkified. You should be able to write code that handles multiple records, not just one record. Okay. If the data comes via API, you get multiple records, so you should be able to handle that. Even in the Apex code, wherever we see a list, okay, insert a list of records, right? Even this list passes multiple records. If I do insert employee, I'll just go here, list of, copy the name. Okay, I do employee list. If I insert the list, this also process multiple records. So your trigger must be bulkified to handle it. Otherwise, the system will fail. The proper updates or proper processing logic will not be applied to all the records. Okay. So it is advisable to make sure you write helper classes or like service class, we call it as. Okay. You can write the service classes and you have to make sure all your business logic exists in this class, and that is also bulkified. Okay. So any classes, you have to make sure it handles the collection record, but helper methods, you need to understand where that context comes into picture, why I should write a helper method, right? I can put everything in the Apex trigger. This is the reason why you don't put everything in the Apex trigger. Is that point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. So did we saw this yesterday? Multiple triggers on same object? I don't think so, but yeah, I might be wrong. Did we talk about streamlining multiple triggers on same object or not? It's yes or no? Azim, did we discuss
No,
about
sir.
multiple triggers? Okay, that's good. Okay, so we can write triggers. Okay, so here, if you see the order of execution, there is a very clear, event to execute all before triggers, and there is a event for executing all after triggers. Okay, so it is strongly advised to split your triggers into two parts: before trigger and after triggers. So wherever you write a trigger, just make sure whether it is before or it is after. Okay, in before you can do all the validations and you can do data updates, and in the after you do all the after logics. Like I would say, after logic means no data correction. Any subsequent actions to be done, that is always recommended in the after trigger. Okay, so the streamlining of triggers is very important, because if you mix the logics, it would be very complex, and it makes redundant executions unnecessarily. Okay, always make sure you have only two triggers per object, and one for before, one for after. So you know exactly in before what you are going to do, and in after what are you going to do. Okay. Okay. Querying large data sets, we haven't seen this, right? Okay, so the recommendation is, instead of retrieving data and putting it in a variable, Salesforce recommends to use for loops to do the processing. Like this takes more memory than this one, because as the data is retrieved, we'll be able to process and store the records. So Salesforce suggests to use loops to handle multiple records. Okay, whenever we are retrieving multiple records, it is always suggested to use loop and put the where classes necessary. Okay, so this also you can there is no harm, but it is advised to avoid this. Okay, these are like general methods that can be used to avoid hitting governor limits, but this generally people won't use this, because they want to handle all the processing. So this is very rare case scenario we use this. Okay, so but be aware of that limit methods which you can use to get the current consumption limits. Okay, but mostly in batch classes we use this, because in the batch you have the control of how many records to process, and you have option to pass set of records to another batch. Okay, at that time this would be useful, but generally we don't use it for in any action or in any single transaction. Like synchronous transaction, we never use this. It is more handy on the asynchronous, where you can control the data flow, and you can pass the data to another batch class or another queuable class. But knowing all the methods in this limits would be always handy. Okay, this is useful for very complex projects and very high resource intensive projects like REMS, which Rishita is working. They are getting this nightmare. They always hit the SOQ limit. I believe they are. Are you guys hitting SCP limit, Rishita? No, right? Only
CPU, right?
yeah, CPU. Are you hitting CPU limits?
Yes, from last 1 week.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this would be useful in such scenarios. Having knowledge of all these methods would be really helpful. Okay. Okay. Yep. So we have 2 more to cover, but I'll talk about future today. We'll talk about the test methods and code coverage in the next session. Yeah. Okay. At future, right? It is useful to invoke asynchronous method. So today, Imran had one challenge, right, where he is getting the mixed DML error, right? So at future can be useful to avoid such situations where Salesforce doesn't want system to perform commits and callouts in one transaction. Okay, the scenario which Imran has is, I forgot the object name. Like there is a naming convention for it. Next DML and Salesforce. Setup objects. Okay, so this error happens whenever we make modification to a setup object. These are all the setup objects, and a non-setup like custom object or standard object. Okay, whenever we do that transaction, whenever we do the operations in one transaction, system throws mixed DML error. Okay, similarly, whenever you make a call out, right, like you're calling an endpoint to get data. Okay, whenever you do that, if you do a database operation and then you do a call out, system will throw an error. You cannot do a call out and the DML operation in one transaction. It is always recommended to do call out first and DML second. Sorry, DML second. I'll show that as well. Okay. Call out DML uncommitted work pending. This is the error message that you will get. Okay. So what this suggests is, whenever you make a call out, after the call out only you can do a DML operation. If you do DML and then make a call out, you get uncommitted work pending error. Okay, so Salesforce put these recommendations. So you need to be aware of all of this and make sure we are not coding in a wrong way. Okay, so now the at future method would be very handy to handle these 2 scenarios. Okay, how it will be helpful is it will trigger an asynchronous transaction. Okay, so in a normal transaction, you do a setup object update, and whenever you want to do a non-setup update, you can invoke a at future method. From Apex, you can do it. From Flow, you can do it. At future method can be invoked. Similarly, after if you want to make any data updates, you can invoke another at future method. In the future method, it becomes a separate transaction altogether. There you can perform any operations that you want. So making use of at future method is very helpful to handle these scenarios. Okay. Anyway, I have shared the link with you guys. You guys can go through. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that. So the synchronous, asynchronous, I want you guys to understand it. Synchronous is one go. Asynchronous is you can the process executes only when there is a system resource available. Okay, synchronous is more guaranteed execution. Asynchronous is delayed execution. It might get executed in 30 seconds or it might get executed in 3 minutes. We don't know that. Only that is the difference. So once you understand synchronous, asynchronous, based on the use case, you guys can implement which method to use, how we can configure our at future method or batch class, queuable class. All of those things would be easy. Okay. Okay, good. I will stop here. Okay, we'll talk about the LWC best practices. I have not gone there. Next week we will cover that. Also, we'll talk about unit testing, the best practices around unit testing. Okay. Okay. Here. Any questions on this? At future appropriately. When to use it? So as you guys make like more progress, you guys will start getting this limit errors. Okay. At that time, this would be very handy to basically to avoid such errors. Any questions? All be good? Yeah. So all of you guys have. Yes.
One more time.
Which one?
At future.
At future. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this mixed DML error, it happens in one transaction. We know the order of execution, right? This is one transaction. Okay. In this transaction, whenever we make an update to two records, one from setup object and one from non-setup object, like account, contact, any custom object, we get this mixed DML error because Salesforce doesn't allow you to execute setup and non-setup object in one transaction. It's a limitation from Salesforce. Okay. So here, okay, here they have given option. You can use future method or future method is the one option where you can avoid this by making the update in a separate transaction altogether. Whenever you put at future, okay, this execution becomes separate transaction. So the two record update is not happening in one transaction, so the error can be avoided. This is one use case. Okay. Similarly, we have something called uncommitted work pending. Okay, as in the order of execution, if you see in 7, we save the record to the database, but we don't commit, right? The commit happens at the end. Commit all DML operations to the database. So what Salesforce recommends is before making the commit, okay, you do all your callouts. And after doing the callout and then do a database update. That is what Salesforce recommends. Never do a callout after update or after insert to the database. Okay. If some business scenarios would say hey, you do the callout, you do the database update and then do a callout to pass data to external system. This could be the business requirement. In order to handle that, we use the at future method because what we are doing, we are making the callout as part of a separate transaction. So at future is an asynchronous process. Okay, you can call the at future method in any of the Apex code or in the flows. So that way, on the scenario basis, you can split the transaction, split the processing into a separate transaction. That is possible. Okay, so these two cases generally uses at future method. Okay, so it is always recommended to use at future method effectively. In order to use that, you need to understand the difference between synchronous and asynchronous process. Anyway, this doesn't have it. If I put the governor limits, we will have the data there. Governor limit. I believe yesterday we saw the synchronous asynchronous differences, right? Here. Synchronous, this is the limit. Asynchronous, this is the limit. So best practices always revolve around your order of execution. That's why we talked about order of execution. We see governor limits, and then we talked about order of execution, and then come to best practices. Does it make sense? Or I'm happy to explain more if needed.
Yes, sir, that sounds good. Thank you for the explanation.
Sure. You guys are having very less hands-on. Okay, so it is not really easy to grasp whatever I say. So you write some code, put your hands into the system, then it will make more sense. Yeah. Yeah. Before I forgot, you guys have created merge request for JavaScripts, correct? Similarly, feel free to include your developer edition in the like I'll help you guys create separate project. One second, guys. So we'll work with the Tamim to create a separate project for all of you guys, like so that your developer edition source code can be kept in the repo, where I can review what you're doing on the developer edition. So that way we can communicate as well. Like I tried this thing, the code. This is the code. It is working. It is not working. Okay. Also, it will help me understand how you are able to use such features that are available in Salesforce, like flows. How are you creating the flows? How are you using Apex triggers, Apex classes? Are you creating any batch classes? Okay, so please work with the Tamim to create project a repository for all of you guys individually. Okay, only you will have access to it, and obviously Tamim and myself will have access, but it will not be shared like the JS one. All of you have Tamim contact information, right? Or like work with Suleiman or Farhan to get the project access from the repository. Is that clear? Work with them, get access, create project for all of you guys individually.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Okay, good. So we'll set up a session next week. Okay, we'll cover LWC best practices and we'll cover unit testing or code coverage basically. Okay, good. Yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to ping in the chat or feel free to ask in the session.
Hi Riyaz, this is Mahesh.
Hi Mahesh. Yep.
I have a doubt in flows. Actually, I'm working on flows.
Good.
Actually, I'm getting an error, but I don't know why I'm getting an error. So,
Yeah,
shall I
please
share?
feel free to share here. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Okay. So guys, I'll be on mute, but I want others to help Mahesh. Okay. That's the only way you guys can learn. Go ahead, Mahesh. Adios.
Okay, yeah. I'm getting this create session registration error here.
What is the error you're getting? The public events isn't compatible with
This one,
the.
I got before I got two more errors also, but somehow I tried and resolve them. But this one I'm unable to.
Have anyone faced a similar error?
No, no, Rios.
Interesting. Mahesh, can you walk us through, like, what change, what is that you have done? It looks like now the variable that you declared may not be right. Okay. Public events isn't a compatible with the subject element record. Mahesh?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just share the trial head that you are, following with the team. Okay. Yeah, you guys can try this out and help Mahesh to solve this error. Yeah. Share this link in the chat. Have anyone done this trial head? I need to review all of your trial head.
No, Rios.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Mahesh, we'll check this, Mahesh, and we will get back to you.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Good. Is any other questions?
No, Rios.
Okay, good. We'll catch up next week. So meanwhile, please work with Farhan, Suleiman to have your own repositories, okay? For your projects, for your developer edition. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.